Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners regular meeting for September the 16th, 2013. I would like to remind those of you in the audience that this is a live meeting, and if you have a mobile device, if you will please make sure that it's on silent or vibrate so that it doesn't go off during the meeting. We are happy tonight to welcome Air Force Junior ROTC from Mount Pleasant High School to do our presentation of colors, so please rise at this time.
Color guard. Hold. Let. Haste. Freeze. Arm.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Arm. Post. Oh, arc.
At this time, I'd like to ask Pastor Bob Wallace to come forward from Connect Christian Church. Welcome.
Thank you. Well, let's bow for a moment. Lord, it is an honor and a privilege to lead. And I pray that tonight that you would bless these leaders, these men and women who have committed themselves in service. And Father, we know that with leadership comes responsibility. And I pray that you would bless them with wisdom, discernment, that as they make these decisions and discuss the issues of our community, that you would lead and guide them, that the decisions that they make would fulfill the vision and the mission that they have for this community. And in all things, Father, as we look to the quality of life, the things in this community that help each other grow together, to serve one another, we pray that you are in the midst of all of that and with this board. Father, I pray in the name of your Son, amen.
Thank you, Pastor Wallace, for joining us tonight. I'd also like to ask the members of the Mount Pleasant Junior ROTC group to come forward. I appreciate it if you would come up to the mic. You may need to adjust the mic up or down, and let us know your name and your rank, and especially if you're a senior, what your plans are for the future.
Oh, okay. Well, hello. My name is Cadet Second Lieutenant Joseph Myers. I am not a senior. I'm a junior this year, but my plans afterwards are to enter the National Guard and hopefully get the MOS of 68 Whiskey, which is a combat medic.
Great, thank you.
Appreciate
If you will come over to my right, your left, Commissioner Burge has a pen for you. Welcome.
I'm Emily Shepard. I'm a cadet captain. I'm a junior this year, and my plans are either to join the military or to attend UNCC.
Very good. Great, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Cadet Major Gary Cooper. I'm a senior this year, and I plan on attending UNC Charlotte and doing the Air Force ROTC.
Great, thank you.
I'm Cadet Captain Hunter Moore. I'm a junior this year, and I plan to do some time in the military and then go to culinary school.
Great, thank you very much. Well, we do appreciate all of you coming out tonight and presenting our colors. I think that's a very important part to get us settled for our meeting. So thank you all very much. Commissioners, the first item that we have is approval or correction of the minutes, which you have had the opportunity to look over. If there are no corrections to the minutes at this time, I would accept a motion to approve the minutes. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next item is approval of the agenda. There are some changes to the agenda that you'll notice on your iPads and the paperwork in front of you. There's an extra recognition and new business for human services. So at this time, I would accept a motion to approve the agenda, including the changes. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, great. First thing that we have are recognitions and presentations. Cabarrus County Schools has received a lot of honors over the last couple months. I received an email requesting that we recognize these folks because they have received some, I guess, extra special honors, let's just put it that way. So I know that we have Carla Black is here, and Lisa Conger is here. If y'all will come forward, please. We also wanted to recognize Lynn Reimer, though I don't see Lynn tonight, and Miss Riley. And sorry, let's get that. Emily Riley, who is not here also. I do want to recognize Mr. Van Hoekelum is here also in support of his staff. Let's see, Mrs. Black was named Educator of the Decade by the Cabarrus County NAACP, not to be Educator of the Year, but Educator of the Decade. Ms. Conger has been named the Director of Career Technical Education for the state of North Carolina. And Ms. Reimer was named the 2013 Principal of the Year for the state of North Carolina. And Ms. Riley was named the 2013 Special Olympics of North Carolina's Coordinator of the Year. So you guys have a lot of recognitions. We wanted to give you an opportunity to come forward and tell us a little bit about either your school that you're at or the department you're in, something of that nature, so that everybody can learn a little bit more about you and the recognitions and honors that you received.
I guess I get to go first. First of all, I want to thank the board for allowing us to be recognized tonight. It's not often that we get to positively share our good news. I would say I'm very humbled by that award. To be recognized by people who were a part of my upbringing and education was a great honor, but I've also given 22 years to Cabarrus County Schools, and I'm very proud of that. I'm a product of the Logan community and Cabarrus County school system, and I believe in the children here being invested in, and hopefully we can help them become productive, contributing citizens. My award was a great one, but I'd just like to say I work with great people. We have a lot of great things going on across the school system, and I'm just proud to be a part of it.
Good evening. I would like to echo Carla Black's sentiments to you. Thank you so very much for recognizing us tonight. I've been with Cabarrus County 6 years, and I represent over 100 teachers in career and technical education and over 80 programs. So we touch a lot of kids, over 14,000 last year, who participated in our classes. So it's very rewarding for us to give back to the community, to economic development, and workforce development. And thank you for your support so much in all those endeavors.
Thank you both for coming out tonight, and we send our congratulations also to Ms. Riley and to Ms. Reimer. And sorry they were not able to join us. I thought that they were both able to get here tonight. So plans change all the time. Next we have Constitution Week, and my iPad is not. Mine's coming up. Okay. Is yours coming up okay? No. I don't have, if we have anybody here from technology that can come in. Let me see if I can bring it back up again. I was going to read the proclamation, if it'll come up.
I have been having problems with mine for about 5 minutes with mine.
Okay.
Struggling.
Well, thank you. I'll pass this back. We have a proclamation tonight. Let me read it. Whereas September 17th, 2013 marks the 226th anniversary of the signing of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention, and whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and whereas it is fitting and proper to officially recognize patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion, and whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designating September 17 through 23rd as Constitution Week, now therefore be it resolved that the Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim Constitution Week, September 17 through 23, 2013, in the County of Cabarrus, and urge our citizens to reaffirm the ideals the framers of the Constitution held in 1787. Do I have a motion to approve the proclamation?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. I'd also like to add from an email on this subject, from an email that I received earlier today. It was titled Church Bells Across America. All across America, all across the United States, people will ring bells at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday, September 17th, to celebrate the 226th anniversary of the signing of the Constitution. It was at this time of day that the original signers of the Constitution used a quill pen and ink to sign their names on this famous document. The church bell in the historic sanctuary at Forest Hill United Methodist Church will be a part of this event. Church member Don Howard will be ringing the bell for the occasion. All are invited to come out to Forest Hill United Methodist Church on the corner of North Union Street and Buffalo Avenue. Forest Hill United Methodist Church is the only church in downtown Concord to take part in this event. So if you are so inclined, please join them at Forest Hill United Methodist. And in the event you hear ringing on Tuesday at 4 o'clock, do not be shocked and wonder what it is. The next item we have is Cabarrus Soil and Water District Annual Big Sweep Proclamation. Commissioner Meisner, would you read the proclamation?
That one's blank on mine.
That one's blank now, okay. Yours is up. Okay, wait a minute now. Okay, now mine's back. Sorry, technology is great when it doesn't work, except for when it doesn't work, so. Okay. A resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Cabarrus County declaring October 5th, 2013 as Cabarrus County Big Sweep 2013 Day. Whereas Cabarrus County is rich in natural resources and beauty, and whereas water is a basic and essential need for all life, and whereas trash fouls our waterways as well as our landscapes, and whereas every citizen should contribute to keeping our environment clean and healthy by working together to preserve clean water and the natural beauty of our surroundings, and whereas North Carolina Big Sweep is a statewide and global community effort to retrieve trash from North Carolina's waterways and landscapes, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners of Cabarrus County, North Carolina, meeting on September 16, 2013, does hereby declare October 5, 2013 as Cabarrus County Big Sweep 2013 Day in Cabarrus County, and does further hereby urge every citizen to do his or her part to restore the beauty and function of our lakes, streams, and landscapes by volunteering to participate in the Big Sweep event. Do I have a motion to approve the proclamation?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, I have one card tonight for informal public comments. Barbara Burridge.
Good evening, Commissioners. Can you hear me all right? Thank you. I'm glad to be able to stand before you tonight. I'm going to read something. I could always speak without paper, but I'd prefer to read it. Excuse me. Moral turpitude is a legal concept in the United States that refers to conduct that is considered contrary to community standards of justice, honesty, or good morals It appears in U.S. immigration law from the 19th century. In other common law jurisdictions, it is dated obsolete. The concept of moral turpitude escapes precise definition, but has been described as an act of baseness, vileness, or depravity in the private and social duties which a man owes to his fellow men or to society in general. Contrary to the accepted and customary rule of right and duty between man and man, the classification of a crime or other conduct as constituting moral turpitude has significance in several areas of law. And I'm no lawyer, excuse me, not trying to be. The classification of crime, okay. First, prior conviction of a crime of moral turpitude, or in some jurisdictions, moral turpitude conduct, even without a conviction, is considered to have bearing on the honesty of a witness and may be used for purposes of witness impeachment. Second, moral turpitude offenses may be grounds to deny or revoke a professional license, such as a teaching credential, license to practice law, or other licensed professions such as myself. Third, it is of great importance for immigration purposes, as offenses which are defined as involving moral turpitude are considered bars to immigration into the U.S. Now, there's a little bit more I can read. I see you didn't set the timer. It means I got all night. A conviction for a crime involving moral turpitude causes a person to be inadmissible to the United States under section, I won't read the sections, Immigration and Nationality Act. There are petty offense exceptions to this rule, but these exceptions do not change the meaning of the question on the visa waiver program or on the visa application form, and cannot be self-certified. A controlled substance violation causes the alien to be inadmissible to the United States under section, here again, they are two different sections of the law. A controlled substance violation is a CIMT. The Immigration Administrative Proceeding does not use a controlled substance violation as a CIMT. Here we go. A visa waiver program applicant admissibility is determined at the port of entry, and they are subject to section, these others. So my statement to you tonight is, as we as citizens are being represented by you folks, other entities, city, county, state, national, whatever, any level, whether it's just our National Guard, which is very important to us. You have oaths, you've taken oaths, and you have moral turpitude, I pray, to be honest to all of us, from the least to the greatest, whoever thinks they're great, whoever thinks they're least. I know I'm small in size, but I'm not least. So the point is, I would pray that all of you have this moral turpitude, that you took an oath to uphold, to represent these citizens out here that are not getting the representation. I am in many areas in this community, talk to many people because they solicit me. I'm more than willing to listen, and I don't believe it unless I see it or hear it with my own ears, okay? I do not use hearsay. But I will grant you the people are not being represented properly. Thank you.
Excuse me, okay, we have nothing under, thank you. We have nothing under old business, so next we have the consent agenda. Commissioners, these are items that we placed on consent at our work session. So at this time, I would accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Now we have new business. Excuse me. The first item that we have is from Planning and Development, proposed text amendment, text 2013-00003, amendments to chapters 2, 4, 8, and 12. We do have need for a public hearing, and you want to give us some information first?
Yes, ma'am. I'll just go over a brief summary. What you have in front of you are text amendments to 4 different chapters of the ordinance. If you remember, we talked about this in detail at the work session. Chapter 2 is clarification of definitions. We also added some new definitions into Chapter 2. Chapter 4 is our overlay district and our overlay zones. If you remember, we needed to make some changes there because the language in our ordinance was not consistent with the language in the City of Concord's zoning ordinance for the airport overlay, and they actually administer that overlay. We also needed to make some changes to the manufactured home overlay for clarification and to remove some old terms that HUD does not use anymore that we had in the language. And we also needed to remove the Reimertown overlay because that's no longer needed since we now have updated small area plans and have also updated our ordinance to include a lot of the things that were in that particular overlay. Chapter 8, this is one of the changes that we're making based on session law. What it does is it gives some additional clarification to what should be an administrative process for a change on a cell tower and then what goes to the board to be considered. That is the only change that we are making in Chapter 8 is specifically to number 36, which is wireless telecommunication services. And then Chapter 12, those are also session law changes because there were several changes to the Board of Adjustment statutes. Chapter 12 is where that information is housed in our ordinance, so we needed to make those changes to be consistent with the state statutes. If you remember, some of the changes there were the high voting requirement will no longer be required except for on variances. There are also some differences in procedure for constructive notice in some of those things, but it's mainly statute driven. And then we also were requesting that, we change some general typos and then we'll renumber as needed. And if you see in the ordinance, it says renumbering as needed. And then also to update our table of contents as appropriate once we get the new page numbers and section numbers. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have, and you will need to hold a public hearing on this.
Commissioners, we talked about this at the work session. Does anybody have questions at this time?
I just have one question. Have you received any comments or questions from the public about their thoughts on the text amendments?
We have not. We did have, the text is available at the Planning and Zoning Commission. They also had a discussion about it. We also have a text amendment committee that is made up of members from the Planning and Zoning Commission as well as our Sustainable Local Economy Committee that look at the text amendments as they come through. Because a lot of these were more housekeeping, we didn't really have any public comment, and this is the opportunity for public comment. There is not an opportunity at Planning and Zoning Commission for public comment since this is where the hearing takes place. There may be some comments in the audience when we call for the hearing, but up to this point, we've not had any questions.
Say, I think it is important to keep the ordinances updated. And I know it's a difficult job and a lot of language and things to keep up with. So I appreciate you guys taking care of that. And it is very important to keep these updated so we do not end up, years from now with, a lot of changes and updates.
Okay, if we can, let me go ahead and call for the public hearing. At this time, I would open the public hearing concerning proposed text amendment 2013-00003, amendments to chapters 2, 4, 8, and 12 for the planning and development. Is there anyone to speak for or against the amendments? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Okay, at this time, commissioners, are there any other comments? If not, we do need a motion to adopt the proposed text amendments.
So moved.
I have a motion to adopt. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have Kyle Billiford with General Services to talk about the Concord Senior Center addition and renovations bid award. Welcome.
Thank you very much. 4 sealed bids from informal bidding were solicited for the Concord Senior Center addition/renovations and were received on August 14th, 2013. Staff has reviewed these submissions and the summary tabulation is attached. Ike's Construction Incorporated was a low bidder for a cost of $315,064, which represents a base bid of $310,664, with an alternates totaling $4,400. The budget for the construction portion of the senior center addition and renovations is $326,000. Therefore, the base bid and alternates are below the budgeted amount. Requesting the action to allow the county manager to authorize a contract between Cabarrus County and Ike's Construction, subject to review and revision by the county attorney.
Okay, Commissioner Burridge, you're the one that made the motion to pull it off of the consent agenda. Do you have anything that you want to discuss tonight first, and then we'll go around the table?
Yeah. If we add to this building, this is the only time we can do it, correct?
Yes, sir.
At this time?
Yes, sir.
So we can't come back any time later and add anything to this building?
No, sir.
Is this the best time to be doing this? What happens down the road if we need another space down there, we need another section? We seem to be in a hurry to get this added on to that building down there for some reason or another. It just seems to me like that to go down there and spend $300,000, and we got a roof leak on this building, we got a roof leak on the DSS, we got $12 million worth of roofs that need to be replaced on schools, and to spend money on things that we really don't need right now. Don't seem like the thing to do with the funds at this particular time.
Okay.
Would you like me to, I can respond. I think the recommendation, this came actually from the members of the senior center back when, year and a half ago, or a little over a year, when we were talking about various things with the senior center and the Department of Aging and Human Services. And when we held the meeting, this was one of the items that was brought forth by several of the group, that they needed more space. The large meeting room where the dances are held, they do exercise classes in there that conflict with other meetings, that conflict with others, and they wanted to have a larger space for exercise and that type of thing. They wanted a larger computer lab.
Correct.
This will be additional restrooms, but this came forward from the wishes of the Senior Center Advisory Board, and then other members that were actually non-board members, but that were at the meeting as well, that had expressed an interest. We moved forward. We brought it to the board here, and at the time, we were directed to move forward. If that's not something that you want to do as a board, we can sure not do it. However, again, based on the recommendations, based on the concerns, based on the identified needs of the members of the senior center, this was a project that moved forward.
The board directed us to do.
How long is this going to supply their needs down there?
Well, with their fitness and computer, in the growing population of their customers and seniors, they told me they felt for the next 5 to 6 years, this would take them through all their class space. There is no ability to enlarge that building any bit more other than the direction we're coming out. I can't go to the back, and I can't go to the side. So this is the only way to come out is with this space.
But we could go bigger coming out, right?
It takes up the one-time increase that you have is based on a percentage of the square footage, and this is as big as we can go. If you're looking at doing anything else on that site, you're probably looking at it would be probably most economical to level the building and start over with a multi-level building if you want to stay at that physical location. There's wetlands behind it, and there's cliffs to the side of it, and they have power lines overhead through the back of it. So you're looking at having to do something like that. Also, the building is not sprinklered, so trying to increase it, you'd be better off just taking it down and building a multi-level elevator, the whole 9 yards.
I guess the other question, Carl, would be if you came forward, this comes out to the curb, the existing curb?
Yeah, it comes
If you go
actually.
any further, that would go into the parking lots and.
Yeah, we're already limited on the parking spaces. We're coming right out to where those spaces are right now. In fact, we're losing a little bit of the picnic table, picnic bench right there in front.
Well, my main question is, with all the other needs the county has right now, is this necessary to do at this particular time?
Jason, do you have any comments?
Well, I went out to tour the facility, and I think the concern that I have with the project as proposed is I think it's a tremendous project and provides for a lot of needs, but I think the county's gotten into the habit of building single-use space, and we just continue to grow our buildings, which continues to grow our maintenance costs. And as Commissioner Burge mentioned, these maintenance costs are getting substantial. I sat in on the school board meeting, and we have J.M. Robinson, a 12-year-old facility, needs a new roof at over $1 million at the roof. I think that we could do this project, for instance, instead of building a computer lab, if we went to laptop computers and wireless, they could take them all over the place. They have several beautiful sitting facilities there, and instead of keeping them stationary, they could go and sit in the room with the fireplace, or they could go back out to their large multi-purpose facility and things like that. And I think that we could do this in a more creative way to create efficiencies for the taxpayer. And I think we could really add a lot of the functionality that we're giving to them for a significantly reduced cost. And I would like to do this project, but I think at the cost that it's at, I will not vote for it.
Commissioner Meismer?
Well, you know, we've discussed this for probably a little over a year. So, you know, I've been involved in the discussions from the beginning. I supported the idea at the beginning, and I still support the idea. I think with the growing number of baby boomers retiring and the needs of that facility will be increasing, you know, I think it would only make sense to maximize their space, and seeing that we can't, you know, expand any more than what this would allow, you know, I think that we should go ahead and take this opportunity to expand. And I know that we had discussed in the past that perhaps having additional senior centers around the county, I think that's where we would have to move in the future. But I think as of now, you know, I support the project. I think that it will maximize the space at the senior center and, like I said, increase the capacity and, you know, increase what they're doing there. So I appreciate it. And, you know, we talked about this for a year and a half, and I think, you know, we certainly should do it.
Commissioner Morris?
If I'm not mistaken, I think that this project was approved prior to my coming on the board, although I did sit in and hear all the discussions about it. My assumption was that it was very thoroughly researched and determined at that time that this was a smart thing to do. I'm not sure that anything has changed to make that different. We did have discussion about the growing senior population in Cabarrus County and the fact that we need to be doing some planning in advance as to how we provide those services in the future. And as you said, the multiple locations were discussed, which makes a lot of sense to me, but I think that would probably be in addition to this. I would need to hear some compelling reason to change this far into the project. Do you have any idea as to what our expenses have been thus far as planning and engineering? And
about 123 man hours.
123 man hours. And
currently the contract for design is $37,000. That includes a feasibility study that was done to make sure it could be done up to code.
Right, so we've spent $37,000 in cash plus a lot of staff time so far.
We've not spent the entirety of that. That includes construction management also. About 3/4 of it that we've spent.
Right. You know, I'm not sure that if this was a good decision then, I'm not sure why we would go back and change it at this point. I've certainly got the impression that the folks, the Senior Advisory Council had adequate input into this, and it's been a pretty lengthy process that has involved a lot of folks.
And I do support the project. It's a direct result of a request that was brought to us to give them more space at that facility. And you're correct in saying that we've discussed the possibility in the future, not right now, but in the future, of adding senior citizen centers in other parts of the county. That population is definitely still growing. and will need more space to serve their needs. So at this time, we do have before us the bid award to Ike's Construction. So I would accept a motion at this time concerning this item.
I would make a motion that we approve the bid award and authorize the county manager to execute the contract between Cabarrus County and Ike's Construction Incorporated, subject to review and/or revision by the county attorney.
Okay, there is a motion and there is a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-2. The next item that we have you have a letter at your seats. Human Services, Ben Rose is here.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Thank you for placing us on your agenda to bring you an update. We wanted to bring forth to you a couple of updates regarding the NC FAST program and our challenges that we have in the food and nutrition program regarding the backlog of cases that we are currently experiencing. As you know and recall, we were here with you last month to talk about one strategy that was approved. And what I wanted to do first was kind of give you just a quick update on some internal strategies that we've been working with, and then talk to you a little bit more about the letter that you have in front of you and some discussions we've had with the state. We are still currently working on implementation of the phone policy that you approved. We have been doing some client outreach regarding the possibility of this new policy being put into place in the very near future. Kasha has been working on some scripts for our department heads and for other departments that may receive phone calls once we implement that policy, as we expect, in addition to further communications and outreach regarding that. So we are in the process of doing that. Hopefully we'll be rolling out some information at the department head meeting tomorrow, and looking, probably our goal is within the next 5 to 10 days that policy would be implemented. An additional service that we were able to receive was called over-the-shoulder support. We were able to get an increase in that from the state, which is basically a person sent to us on site that kind of comes over and reviews what the issues are and the challenges that we're having at the time working with our new program. They're not there to really process cases. They're there as support and consultation. We did get an increase in that, but those persons have been removed now from our office. And the next issue is why. The state last week announced that they were going to be helping counties with some of the processing of backlog cases. We were excited to hear that, because that is a resource, and we were first to say, yes, we'll take full advantage of it. We have to basically send cases to Raleigh, and they will work on them in Raleigh, and then they will come back. In fact, we have a person driving there tonight, taking our cases along with Mecklenburg County's cases. We have sent 1,000 cases to Raleigh to help with processing. Now that's 1,000 of probably 4,000 to 5,000 that we have, and it will help, and it will be a resource. Do realize they are doing this for the whole state. Approximately 40,000 cases, I believe, are being sent to Raleigh, and they have about 20 to 25 people to work on the cases. So it is a resource. We are taking advantage of it. Does it get us out of our hole completely? No, but it is something we definitely are taking advantage of. We have had staff working Saturday shifts. They were working this past Saturday, so they are doing all they can, working extended overtime when possible, trying to still manage that overtime, but our staff are really working hard, and I don't know how many were in there Saturday. I know we had a group. We had a large number of Saturday working cases as well, too. So we are doing all that we can from that standpoint. Our staff are working really, really hard from that area. Trish and the management team have also taken a new approach to restructure some of the teams that we have in food and nutrition. And they're doing this with a temporary approach, but it's kind of a crisis-driven team. And they're looking at breaking down the 3 main components of what we deal with within the food and nutrition program, which is intake, application, and then recertification. Recertification is, of course, where we're really struggling the most. That's where we have the backlog, people that were that needed to be recertified in July. Some of them still have not been recertified. So they've broken down into teams that are specializing in that. In addition to that, any new staff that have been coming in, even in other areas within her area, have been getting deployed to that area to help in that crisis mode. So we're trying to use all the resources that we can to really address the issues that we're having. So those are some internal strategies that we've done and trying to implement to help the situation. However, we've been having a lot of discussions with the state as well too. We had a visit from Sherry Bradsher, who is the Deputy Secretary of Department of Health and Human Services. She came approximately 2 weeks ago, I believe, 2.5 weeks ago, and visited us with us on site. Talked about our issues that we're having, and actually went around, talked to staff, encouraged staff, which was very nice for her to do. And then on top of that, we've had discussions with Wayne Black, who's the Division Director of Social Services with the state, and Roy Young, who's kind of been a liaison of sorts. He's not doesn't work for the state, but he's been a support to our county. And we met with him last Friday, I believe, and talked with him about some issues as well too. You have a letter from the state, which basically was generated on behalf of Sherry Bradsher, that was looking at strategies that counties could use to really help that have a serious backlog. Again, there's probably about 18 to 20 counties that are really dealing with some of these challenges. They continue to recommend, and while they were very happy with the phone policy, they thought that was a good step. They really do feel that temporary staff is the only way to really to make a dent on that backlog. New cases come in each month, new recertifications come in each month. So if you can just imagine when you're back two months behind, and then you get new ones piled on each month, and you have the same amount of people doing what they can do, it's hard, it's difficult. Counties have been successful in employing temporary staff to help really get that backlog down. And it's just a recommendation they are really promoting with us. And we know that was discussed briefly, but was not, well received at the time. But we thought we would bring it back to you maybe for reconsideration to see if there would be a way for us to look at that as an option, since the state has put forth as a strong recommendation as well too. So that's kind of where we're at this point. We're happy to entertain any questions.
I don't have a question. I do want to make a comment that I know all of us have been contacted by different people. I think some people, and I mean this in a nice way, think that apparently I can do a whole lot more than I can, because when I get contacted, what I do is I send it to Ben. And Ben and staff are the ones that actually respond. I can't approve anybody or do anything. We don't have that power to do that, but your staff, I do want to commend, because I do think that you've worked very hard when we've been contacted to pull that case up. And, it's not that you're not doing it already, because I know you are, but just like you said, you've got a backlog and you're working through them. Some of the problems, I think on this last one, disconnected phones or, different ways of getting in touch with people. And sometimes the numbers you have in the system are not the correct number, or proving that they've moved here versus from another county that they were in before. And so there are a lot of issues that you've had to work through. So I did want to say thank you, because it was Saturday, I guess, was when I sent that last one to you, and very quickly, y'all were able to pull it up and address it. So I do want to say thank you to both of you, and please let all of your staff members know that are working real hard on this, that we do appreciate it. So, Commissioners, does anybody have any questions or comments at this time?
With the state recommendations to hire temporary employees, is there any money that's coming with that?
No additional money outside of our regular administrative reimbursement. So that basically results in we upfront 100% of the cost of the temporary staff. So just for hypothetical figures, if it's $100,000, we can claim reimbursement on that at our administrative rate, which is 50%. So okay. It would be a net cost of $50,000.
Okay. So, I mean, it's mind-boggling to me that the state would require us to transition into this program, not realizing, what kind of consequences there would be. Now, I think once the program's up and running, the system, I think it'll be great. But just getting to that point is difficult, and it's costing us money at the local level to have to do this, and I just don't think that's right. I did want to ask, the phone policy that we approved, I guess it was last month, why has that not been implemented yet?
It's a big policy. It's a big step to take. We've met with IT and with Kasha and planned out how we could best do it because we knew there would be some impacts. And then in addition to that, we wanted to do some education of our clients to try to lessen the impact. So we've been doing that, especially over the last 2 weeks. So we're pretty much ready to go with it now. We have kind of a workflow with our phone systems, how it will work. So it's a matter now of putting the final touches on it. Again, tomorrow meeting with our department head meetings to talk about kind of what their response will need to be, because again, it will be a total shutdown from 2 to 5,
right,
where not even a message will be taken. So we need to, train our department heads, because what happens is they hang up the phone, as you probably know, and they'll call another department. We had a situation last week where county manager's office was getting multiple calls, more because of a communication that had come out from the state. But so we know the impact it's going to have. So we really were trying to plan it as best we could. So it's been it hasn't been an overnight kind of a thing.
Well, that should be, the policy should be implemented maybe by the end of the week?
That would be our hope, is by the end of the week, we'll be ready to go with it. We'll be turning them off at 2 o'clock.
I know we had talked about the temporary staff, I guess at our last meeting, and, I of course wasn't in favor of that, and I think majority of the commissioners were not. And so that's the reason we resulted in the phone policy. So I would really like to see what kind of results we could have from that before we go and hire temporary employees. So, if we could get a update maybe next month, if it's 1 month after, to see what kind of impact that's had, rather than us hiring temporary employees for the time being.
And I think the temporary employees, that what the state is looking at is based on just the backlog that we have. And while the phone policy will create downtime for our staff, it's still the same number of staff touching the cases. I think that's what they were looking at when Sherry came in. That's really what she was assessing from her perspective, is that to really get at that backlog, you need extra hands touching it. And because our staff can only do, so much, but it's, I will, just to follow on Ms. Bull's, and Chris knows as well too, our staff have been very dedicated and working very diligently to deal with these issues as best they can.
And they do an excellent job. I think there's no question of the current staff. They, I've been in the department and seen, and they do a fantastic job, and I know they have a very difficult job, so I do understand that, and I know they're working the best they can, but I would like to see, just an update in a month of how the phone policy maybe would help the situation before we do hire temporary employees.
Mr. Rose, first I want to say thank you again for your hard work here. I know that this has presented a lot of challenges for your department, and I appreciate you managing those challenges. Have you found any more efficiencies in the system? I mean, essentially what you talked about for about a month now is your inability to get data in an efficient manner up to the state. Have you found any more efficiencies through your system?
Yes, the system is working better overall from where we were 3 months ago. Some of that has been due, and I think we did touch on this last month because we had just installed the Google Chrome. That has helped our system a lot. Now, we've had some incidences, and Trish can allude to more specific dates, where the state system has still gone down at times. There's what's called NCID, which is kind of the portal, I believe, to the system. That has been down a few times with the state, or the system has had periods of downtime. But overall, yes, it is working much more effectively. We can, especially where we were, I think, April and May, we've seen vast improvements.
I'd like to go through quantitatively with you and see what the numbers look like, and see if, I really don't want to push this off for a month if we're going to be here in another month and you're going to have no resolution and you've just been knocking your head against the wall, to be honest with you. So I believe that the last time that we met, in our last meeting, you had 24, I think, employees that were working here, maybe up to about 33 that you felt like were in training and might be accessible to start entering data. Is that about right?
It is, and on Saturday, we did an additional training and brought in some folks who
we felt could key through use of overtime or Saturday work. So what they'll be doing is just entering the application or recertification, and then a worker will go in and actually do the eligibility piece, because that does require much more training than we have time for. One thing we're up against right now that Ben has not mentioned is in a conference call last week, despite your recommendation that the state slow it down, they have now fast-tracked us for Medicaid. So come October 1, we will be keying all of our applications in NCFAST, and they're shutting down the state legacy system that we currently use to input Medicaid applications. So in addition to food stamps, now we'll be fighting the Medicaid situation. So we're really, worried about that as well.
So you've got 33 employees, and you said you had 4,000 to 5,000 cases backlogged. Is that right?
At the time, there were 4,000 to 5,000 either applications or recertifications.
Okay.
Today, one of my supervisors, program managers, actually drove 500 recerts to the state and took 6 boxes for Mecklenburg as well. And then on Wednesday, we'll bring the other 500 to Raleigh. So they'll be working on 1,000. But in the meantime, August is, past due. So we've probably added another 1,200 to the, because the staff is still working, but they're, the backlog still comes.
If you had these 33 people working, some of them can input all day long, but assume that you can shut down the phones at 2 and all 33 of them can start inputting caseloads. How many of those do you think an individual can input per day?
When you have an 8-hour day, they can do about 10 to 15. So we had figured it would take 5 months for the staff that we've got now, for the 12 staff, only using those staff to input and the other staff process. It would take us, between 5 and 7 months to get the backlog done. And that's assuming NCFAST stays up and, does all, that's from 2 to 5, using that time for exclusive processing.
So you were saying that you could get 10 to 15 done?
In an 8-hour day.
Okay.
So figure a portion of that for a 3-hour day.
So maybe 4 or something like that. But 33 times 4 is 120, and that's not going to get us very close.
And that's what we're up against, just the math of it. The volume is just incredible. And with Medicaid coming on, that's the fear we have now, that the state is, not listening to common sense and, slowing down. But I believe there's some federal mandates there that they're trying to meet. So we're, sort of caught in the middle.
Well, I voted against temporary workers at the last meeting. I would not be in favor of the full proposal to us, which was maybe getting close to 6 digits or maybe 6 digits. But I do think that there is a way that we could add some more, well short of that, add that to the phone system, get you some additional help, because really, truly, if Medicaid's coming on October 1st, I suspect you're going to find more inefficiencies in the system, which is going to slow you down again. So if we could get you very well caught up, we really don't have very much time, but at least get started. I would be in favor of that.
Commissioner Burridge, do you have any comments? Commissioner Morris?
Yeah, I noticed on this letter there are 3 points, and of course the first one is hire temporary staff. Are we okay on 2 and 3? Or do we have some?
Supportive, I believe, and Todd is here now, I believe we've got a pretty good relationship with IT.
Yeah.
And I have his direct number too, so.
Right, okay. So if we were to do the temp, you're already spending additional dollars on overtime and Saturdays and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it's comp time,
Yeah,
so
it's
they're
comp
building time, and at some point, if they were to leave the county or take it, it's obviously a cost.
Pay me now, pay me later, kind of a situation. So not only are you getting behind on your applications, not getting behind, been behind, now you're building up that's going to be behind too. At some point, that's got to be settled up. So if there were temporary staff, is there the equipment, the computer terminals or whatever would be required to to do that work?
I think we would have enough, and Todd might be able to speak to that, but I think for the 6 to 10 that we were asking for, I think there would be. If we were to bring more than that in, there might be technology issues.
Right. Yeah, I think this is a pretty drastic situation that calls for some drastic solutions if we can come up with them. And it's just all going to snowball October the 1st, if I understand correctly.
We hope not, but everything else is not gone as the state is.
I can't imagine how it couldn't. Are the same people going to be entering?
We've got Medicaid staff who are going to be doing that, but a lot of our clients are common, so I've got another 50 workers who will do the Medicaid, but even if they're all doing it, if the system's not working now, I've got 80 people who can't work.
Right.
So that's another fear we have.
Yeah, so maybe Medicare won't be quite as bad. Maybe they figured out some of the kinks in the system.
We hope.
Hopefully.
Right.
Well, I would certainly be in favor of whatever plan that you might bring forward to try to eradicate this backlog. I mean, it's easy for us to sit up here and talk about. I mean, I know it's stressful for you guys and it's stressful for your staff. It's easy for us to talk about it, but these people that are calling us are experiencing real life problems that we're not. So, I'm in favor of a solution to correct the problem.
And I think some of what's hard to explain up here is that, it's what our staff do. It's not just data entry. It is determination. It's eligibility. It's, processing information. So it's a little more complex than just, getting some data entered into a system to move the cases forward. And we definitely, in terms of Jason's perspective, we could potentially look at a larger number of temps for a shorter period of time that perhaps could cost a little less, but it would maybe be able to let us intensify what we do. I think the original proposal was like 6 temps, but it was scattered over about a 28-week period. Maybe we cut that period down and look at more intensity with maybe a couple more staff, but at a shorter period of time, just to help us try to get through some of this backload. That could be an option we could assess.
In looking at the numbers, if we have 33 people individually doing it in your department without temps, and they are doing 3 to 4 a day, that worked out to 120 a day, and that's not including the people that are working on it 8 hours. But if you look at that 20 days in a month, you could get 2,000 done in a month. If your backlog is 4,000, and you sent 1,000 up to Raleigh, that really, with your staff, puts you at a month and a half. I would not be in favor of voting for 28 weeks of temps. What I would be in favor of is sort of combining with Commissioner Meismer said and authorizing a limited number of temps for a month and come back. Obviously, you would hire them, say, in a week and come back to our meeting, give us an update on where those temps were and where your backlog was, and then we could look at that point and really see what kind of impact both of the policies have together. And it may be that at that point you can continue on with just the phone policy and go ahead and fill that backlog and be done with it. And I think that would be fair to you, but also efficient for the taxpayers as well.
Are you going to have to train the temporary staff?
Yes.
How long is that going to take?
Well, we've got some leads who have been slimming down the policy, if you will, trying to find things that staff can do or temps can do, other departments could do for us. So it will probably take, I think 3 to 5 days would be the least amount of time. But originally we had talked about a month worth of training. So we've really come, there's just learning the system is at least a day or so. The state does 2.5 days of training for this system. We feel like we could certainly consolidate that. And then there is some policy knowledge they would need, and that would be at least another day or two with some very dedicated over-the-shoulder support by our supervisors who have already agreed to that. So 3 to 5 days, and I could get them to where they would be very helpful to us.
What's the cost for each individual?
Our current contract requires that we provide at least $10 an hour. So it would be $14.10 per hour per employee. And if you're looking at that over a week, I think that comes to $5.54 or something. I didn't bring my calculator, but about $5.50 per week for one employee.
Okay.
That $14 an hour, is that what they'll actually be paid, or is that?
That is
was-
included the core staff, or we use core staff usually because they can provide us the quickest trained sort of
I see.
computer skilled, about 40%
Okay.
is what they charge.
Ms. Dubois, I would like to ask, where would the money come from if we were to, or Mr. Downs?
The board. Turn it off. You do have a contingency that you established when you approved the budget. What is the number that you're looking at, Ben? I think anywhere from 50 to 100,000. Whatever the
Yeah.
board decides, there is enough money
Yeah.
in there in the contingency to cover that.
If we could get 10 in here, we could really put a dent on it in a month or a month and a half or whatever, so.
Commissioner Osterreich, do you have a recommendation that you would like to put in the form of a motion?
I wanted to calculate the 10 at 5 4-week times 5 weeks is 27,000. I would make a motion that we authorize. I would make a motion that we authorize $25,000 for them to hire temporary workers for a limited period of time to assist the backlog and get them caught up so that they can get ready for Medicaid.
That's just going to train them, isn't it?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Birch, you said it would take 3 to 5 days, and that would provide 10 employees for 5 weeks. So they would have an entire month to input, and based on those numbers, I think that they could help make a significant dent, particularly if we're doing it in addition to the phone policy.
Okay, so you've made a motion that, that they hire 10 people at the approximate cost of $550 a week for 5 weeks, correct? 550, that's the approximate cost. She's trying to remember at the top of her head.
Right, I
10
don't have a calculator.
10 temporary employees for 5 weeks at the approximate cost of $550 a week for an amount of $25,000.
No more than $25,000.
Not to exceed $25,000. I just want to make sure.
That won't cover it. $500 a week times 10 is
5,000.
5,000, and that times 10 is 25. That's right. I'm thinking about something. No, it's 5,000. It'd be 50,000.
500 a week times 10 for 10 employees
Then you
is
got 5,000 a
5,000. And those 10 employees are going to work for 5 weeks, which is
I thought you
25,000.
said it's going to work for 10 weeks.
5,500 times 5 is 27,500. So would you be willing to make it 30,000 to make sure they can get it done?
I would like to see them come back here next month is really what I'd like to see. And so for 27,000, that will take them, 25,000 would take them through our next meeting. And so I would like to see them come back next month and make a report to us and see if they need to continue those employees or if they feel like that with the additional help that they've made significant progress in that backlog, that they feel like they can handle it. Also, that would take us into the Medicaid period also, and we would get a chance to look and see how the Medicaid input was going. And if we have success at that, which who knows, we may or may not, but I think it'll give us a chance to come up with a more comprehensive policy. And I am hesitant to authorize much more than that. I think this is a stopgap measure, and so I'd like to see them come back.
And I don't disagree. If it's $550 per person per week and 10 people, that's $5,500 a week. Times 5 weeks, it's $27,500. So do you want to give them at least enough to cover 10 people for 5 weeks? $25,000 means that it's not 10 people for 5 weeks, it's something less than that. That's why I was trying to make sure that I understood your dollar amount and your motion that you were making.
And that's fine. We can do
$27,700 is the number that I came up with, and that'd be fine with me.
I just want, for clarity, make sure that we know. 27,500, 27,700?
700 is the number that I have.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to make sure that we get it down right so that everybody's good and we don't have any confusion. Okay, Commissioners, we have a motion on the board, as you've heard, to hire 10 people, 10 temporary employees for 5 weeks at an amount not to exceed $27,700. Is there any other, well, let me ask, do I have a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Is there any other comment concerning the motion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, the motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next we have appointments, and I have some of this. I'm still not getting all my documents on the iPad. The first one we have is Charlotte Douglas International Airport Commission. We had 3 applicants, Richard Clocher, Robin Hayes, and Leonard Lancaster. So at this time, I would open to the commissioners for a motion to appoint.
I'd like to nominate Lanny Lancaster.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second to the motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 4-1. Okay, next we have the Adult Care Home Community Advisory Committee. And let's see, we need a motion to appoint Dora Fulton for a 1-year term ending September 30th, 2014, and a motion to remove Kay Strayer from the roster.
So moved.
Second.
To have a motion and a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next, we have the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. There are quite a number of people in this one. We have a requested action of the motion to reappoint Steve Ayers, Troy Barnhart, Mark Bowles, Jane Caulfield, Susan Farrington, Marta Mears, and David Sieneka to the JCPC for 2-year terms ending September 30th, 2015, including a exception to the length of service provision of the appointment policy for Mr. Barnhart and Ms. Caulfield. Also, a motion to remove Helen Leak from the JCPC roster and thank her for her service. A motion to appoint Lachey Avery as the Area Mental Health Designee Representative to complete an unexpired term ending September 30th, 2014, including an exception to the residency provision of the appointment policy, and a motion to appoint Sonia Bohannon Thacker as the Local Health Director Designee Representative for a 2-year term ending September 30th, 2015.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? I would like to make just a general comment on that one. I think that Mr. Barnhart and Ms. Caulfield have done a great service on this board, and they're both, I believe, from Mount Pleasant. That's my thing about serving for extra long times. I'm hopeful that over the next 2 years that some other people from Mount Pleasant area or other areas in the county might be interested in this particular board. I think they've both done great, been on there for quite a long time. Okay, then we have some reports, and at this time, I would open it up to commissioners who serve as liaisons to either municipalities or to various boards and committees, if anybody has any information to relay from a board that you serve on. Okay. I do need to make next up is general comments, so I would like to make a general comment tonight. We have a young man who is behind the scenes at all of our meetings. He runs the microphone. He also has a bit of a sense of humor, so he likes to give me words to say during a meeting to see if I can work them into the meeting. So the word that I was asked to work into the meeting tonight was actually his name. So I would like to wish Christopher Bullard well in his new position he's taken at Virginia Tech, and let him know that we will miss him. We all know him well because he does a lot for us, and we will greatly miss him. Also like to mention Linda Dry passed away, and I would like to ask that we all remember her family. She was at the Board of Elections, and so we would like to remember her and her family at this time. Commissioners, are there any other general comments by board members?
I have just one general comment. I sit on the board of directors for the Crisis Pregnancy Center, and they really do amazing things. They have an ultrasound machine there, and they're doing ultrasounds for young ladies for free, and provide parenting classes for them. And I think it's really a great resource that they're not using taxpayer money. And we have our annual benefit dinner coming on October the 3rd at 7 p.m. And if anybody would like to come and join us and see what we're doing, then we'd love to have you. Contact me, please.
Where's the dinner being held?
The Great Wolf Lodge has made arrangements for us to do it there, so we're excited about that.
And if anybody's interested, they need to RSVP and just let you know?
They do.
That'd be the easiest way?
Yeah, if they contact me, I'll send them the registration information.
Okay, great. Any other general comments? Okay, we do have need for a closed session tonight, Commissioners, to discuss pending litigation. And so at this time, I would accept a motion that we go into closed session to discuss threatened or pending litigation as authorized by North Carolina General Statute 143, 318.11A3. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. At this time, we would like to thank everybody here in the audience with us and those at home. And we hope that you all have a great week until we see you again. Thank you and good night.